They said Warhammer is for everyone, but forgot to add that it's for everyone who can afford it. It's called Warhammer 40k because it costs 40k to get into it. Jokes aside, it's obvious Warhammer Tabletop is not for everyone. If you are a kid, a young adult, a working class parent, someone who has the budget to afford the already expensive hobby that is Warhammer Tabletop, then you probably understand that there is financial gatekeeping involved. Most outsiders that walk into a GW store are mostly going to walk out the moment they see the price tags for what they will probably perceive as basically a bunch of tiny toy soldiers. Has anybody ever seen the moment a parent walks into a GW store with their kid and seen them walk out a minute later? Generally, however, if you aren't new or an outsider, you will know that there are alternative options like third-party retailers that offer more affordable prices. And if you are a based individual, then you probably have access to a 3D printer that puts you in total control. So it's not the end of the world for existing Warhammer Tabletop hobbyists. When it comes to attracting new people, however, especially kids, that's another story. For Games Workshop and a lot of companies in general, this isn't about profit, it's about growth. The company is already profitable, but the boardroom execs, the corpos if you prefer cyberpunk terminology, care more about growth. Not simply enough to make a profit, they have to keep exceeding their previous records. They are fully focused on milking the existing customer base, particularly the whales of the hobby, the guys who shell out tens of thousands of dollars for these toys, kinda like the whales in Star Citizen that shell out over $40,000 for a pack of pixel spaceships. But sustainability wise, if they ain't attracting new people, especially younger people, into the hobby, then I don't see GW's tabletop profits being a permanent thing in the future. Tabletop gaming is already a super niche hobby. GW just happens to be one of the big brands and right up there when it comes to being the most expensive, even if quality control for certain products aren't great. The only thing that would attract younger generations into Warhammer now are the actual video games and books. That doesn't mean people will pivot into the tabletop hobby because of playing games like Darktide. The vast majority of gamers definitely won't, I assure you. But the tabletop is not something that is even remotely financially viable for most adults in general right now. I'd also like to mention that this is one of the publicly announced price increases, and that's stealth price increases where no announcement is made but customers that show up to a store will notice on the price tag do happen. You could argue that the price increase is reasonable, sure, but there is no excuse for the stringflation that occurs, like how certain products cost more despite having less content inside them compared to previous products. Imagine the reaction when people find out certain boxes of minis, like Primaris Jump Pack Intercessors, for example, have been reduced from 10 models to 5 models. Has any tabletop fan ever experienced this shrinkflation moment? That feeling when a box of minis gets reduced in quantity yet the price remains the same or sometimes is higher than what it once was. I know I sound like a hater, but are you a real Warhammer fan if you have never thrown any shade towards the 5th Chaos God of Greed? I think the only people that do not possess any criticism about GW's shrinkflation practices are the shills on echo chambers like Reddit or Twitter. Real OG Warhammer tabletop hobbyists who aren't whales are probably doing what this guy is doing. They've cultivated their own friendship group that enjoys the game together and have access to the resources needed to do their own thing. You have to remember, Warhammer is a setting and it's what you make of it. Real Warhammer fans do their own thing, whether it's tabletop or lore. The 40k universe is what you make of it. I love the 40k that I got into years ago. That's my 40k. Anything that deviates from it, like if the emperor becomes the empress or something, that ain't my 40k. That's someone else's, which is totally fine. Just don't expect your shitty k to be for me.